So please welcome back to the show, Elly Molina. Welcome, Elly.
Hi, Ashley. Thank you. And thank you for having me back. It's been so many years,
I
so many
know.
years.
We're at the very beginning, and I didn't even go back to look. For some reason, it wasn't calling me, and I knew it was in the 2020, like my beginning. I mean, you came on at the probably in the teens, and then probably again in the 20s or 30s. So it was very close together.
Yeah.
And, since then, I have met so many amazing connections that are now on this podcast that were people that I've met, friends now that are there's from you that you've introduced me to. I know I've introduced you to people that you still create magic in their lives. And, it's just amazing when I think of a soul connection or remembrance or even the way that I connected with you to have this three-peat on was through Kelly Smith and her connection and how she met you at the Psi Games. And then that day I was talking to Kelly, my other Kelly friend from Park City. We were
Oh, that's
talking
right.
about you. And I'm like, how come Ellie's coming into my awareness so much and all these everywhere? And I had to reach out because it's those, if you ignore those things, you just are stupid.
It's true.
You, well, it is because it's like, no, there's something in there, and I know it. So when I do get those little breadcrumbs, and I just go, I'm like, I'm gonna message Ellie. We must have to have another episode, and here we are. And there has
And
been so much growth and so much expansion in my life and in yours.
yeah,
And when I
absolutely.
started going down your rabbit hole in my mind as at this stage in 2025, almost 2026, which is absolutely crazy, I was like, wow, I learned so much about you in this journey that I didn't know before. But let's start with what's on the cutting edge of Elly Molina right now.
I love that. Okay. So, in case anyone is watching this who's watched before, where we started many years ago was with Psi-Kids. Okay. And what is Psi-Kids? That was my work for decades, Ashley. Absolutely for decades as a teacher, middle school teacher. And then after creating the schools, writing the book, it was my passion, and it was Psi-Kids, which is all about teaching children and their parents or their adults how to access, develop, trust, and utilize their intuition and their psychic abilities. And from that point on, at that time, it was a very lonesome journey. There were about three people that I had heard of that I had connected with doing this work, only they were just people that were on the internet and they had no real connection to me nor I to them. And then fast forward during those years, these 5 years, I've always still had my regular business, which is consulting, and then had dividing and deciding and looking at language because that's my background. My background is language, it's linguistics, ontology, neurolinguistics. So that is my background. And teaching was, the side. What do you do with this? What do you do with that? Well, you teach, okay? And so, bottom line, I started looking, really looking at what was it that was creating my clients' success. Like I started looking at it as a system. And then I came away with, wow, this is all in language, not just in language that we're speaking daily, but it's also in the language that we're creating. And then the whole thing started to come together when I was swimming. I was swimming and I'm just doing the strokes when this down, let's call it a download, an upload, an inload, outload, something came and it hit me, and it was Scientology. And I was like, Scientology, this is great, but not Scientology from Ron L. Hubbard. Okay, this is PSI, psychic ontology. Who are we being? And I realized at that moment that that is what has all my clients achieved the most miraculous results that they've been getting, is because I've been combining the world of ontology, who are we being, at every moment in time in our awareness and our consciousness, with the psychic realm. And it opens up an access to something so great that I am extremely excited to teach. And then, going back a little bit, I remember sitting there watching, maybe you know her, Pam Gregory, the astrologer. So she was on her channel. She was talking about the new earth. And then she said something like, well, Greg Braden said that in order to have the new earth, we need to have a new language. And it was like, yeah, Pam, I got that. I got the whole thing. I got the whole, not even a paradigm. This is bigger than a paradigm. We're in an episteme, which I can go into in a little bit later. Only this is so big that if we can understand what came to me in this download that I have put together, if we can actually start to teach this and understand it for ourselves, we can alter the current worldview that we are in and accept and start in a new worldview, which is what my clients have been doing. All right. So, is there a question here yet before I
You just
continue?
keep going, Ellie. Just keep going. No, it's like, I feel what it's doing for me is like confirming the shift that I've been feeling. And I know I texted you that day and I said, I'm feeling this shift. I want to do something with you to understand what my astrology is and I'm in this weird, my energy's different. What I see is different. I know how powerful my mind is and how much like just being with as a mom, being, now they're almost, 16 and 19. I've raised them that way. And when I start to tune into this, what you're teaching now, it's like, oh, okay, there, I'm with you. I get it. I get this
Yeah,
expansion of where we have to be. Like it has to be this to
we have
where,
to go here. Yeah.
yes. Okay, continue.
All right. So at the Psi Games, there were a number of that was part of with the Psi Games, which were in Virginia. This is the first time ever. So people with really wonderful abilities in mind sight, that is seeing without our eyes, reading without your eyes, doing lots of activities without our eyes, were then displaying them and competing in a fun way. And there was telekinesis and there was telepathy. And it was like really wonderful programs going on. And so the thing that occurred to me also, which has always been my passion, is what happens after the phenomena? What happens when, believe me, I'm not what I'm saying is it is incredible to do blindfolded archery, to be able to see without your eyes, to be able to know all of these things, to read without your eyes. This is incredible stuff, very empowering. As a psychic, though, what happens after the phenomena? That is where you don't want to become a pony, like one of those trick ponies, you know what I mean? Where you go into rooms and start performing. Oh, look what I can do without my eyes. Look at what I can do without my eyes. You want to use this for something greater. So all of a sudden it was like, well, what is greater than all of this? And what is greater is language and the trap that we are in. So now we're going to backtrack, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Spiritual people, okay, and this is not a make wrong about anybody, but without the knowledge that I'm going to be presenting, a lot of people are going to be staying stuck and they have a belief that maybe one morning they're going to wake up and they're going to be in the fifth dimension, or they're going to have life is going to change, and all of a sudden we're going to be floating in higher dimensionality. And I personally don't believe that's how it's going to go. I believe that the only way the transformation and the transcendence can happen is through an awareness of the current worldview that people are in, the language that they're using, the thoughts that they're speaking, and then to learn what it would take to transcend or break out of the fish tank of this old world view. So, we're in a worldview, Ashley, that dates back to caveman. And
Right.
this can be historically proven. We are in fear, we are in survival, we are in a world where there is something wrong, and we are constantly looking to fix it and fix us. We are in a worldview of survival where we're still operating from these very low emotions of war and anger and resentment. And if we think about all of these scales, the frequency scale, Maslow, all of these scales, it doesn't matter. You pick a scale, it doesn't matter which one it is. We are stuck here. Now, why are we stuck here? Because we have a worldview that is still using the language of dead people and the thoughts of dead people.
Mm-hmm.
And until we learn what it will take to break from that and I'm not even going to call it a paradigm, okay, to break from that entire way of being into, first you got to get to into a way of being that allows for magic, allows for miracles, allows for the extraordinary, allows for psychic ability to be as common a phenomena as when we speak about the weather. Now, in order to get to that, thinking has to change. And
Mhm.
this is what my program, what I'm doing right now, the book that I'm in the process of writing, which is all called Scientology, the language for the new earth, so to speak. Okay, so it's a new worldview, a new framework, a new language for creating these unlimited possibilities.
Right. Well, give me an example of what. So I'm with you. Like I teach at schools now since we last talked. The last 3 years now, I've been going to these schools locally. And I'm really, I love children and it brings me so much joy. So when I go back to your life and how you were an educator and love that too, and you want to bring kids to like understanding their power, right? Like
Hmm.
they've been so dumbed down to believe that they're so nothing. And as they get older, I see it in this first group that's 5 to 8 years old. They're like, their imagination, they're talking about aliens and they're talking about that they can do anything. And, it's just amazing to watch. And that's where my heart is. And then I get to
Hmm.
the other room and they're 8 to 14 year olds and there's some a switch that flipped. And
Right.
I
Hmm.
see it and it's like, okay, well, there we are. There's this fine line. And I know when I hear what you're doing and what you've done your whole life, basically, is try to insert this magic. And the way to see life is everything is a miracle. Look at what you're thinking. I always talk, change your thoughts, change your story, change your life, basically.
Hmm.
And when
Hmm.
people start to share their story and it's this victim, I can't take it. And I'm not that I have a cold heart, but I'm like, if you keep talking that way, then it's like your word is your wand, right? Like then there you go. Just keep talking it. I do that with the girls. She'll say, Mom, I was bullied in 8th grade, Presley, the other day about pageants. And I said, okay, well, maybe we need to change that story. And now
Hmm.
if you keep talking about that, that's what you're creating. And now we're in
Absolutely.
11th grade and you're going to attract those bullies about the pageant. So there you
That's right.
go. Okay,
That's right. She's
that's
right.
my
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you touch upon two things, Ashley, that I want to go into. So before the children have a natural spark in their eye when they're little, okay? And you can tell when the spark leaves, the programming has altered. So when kids have the spark in their eyes, that means that whatever's happening in the home, and this is all about conscious parenting, et cetera, whatever's happening in the home, the children's imagination is still being fostered and the spark is still there and they still believe in the magic of the unknown and the beauty of their abilities. And as the spark starts to leave and their eyes become duller, it's been taken from them and it's been taken from them through the programming. And it's interesting because the newsletter and video that I'm just produced, which is going to be out tomorrow, is all about socialization. It's a different level. It ties back to a German concept, which is called Menschenverderbung. And that is a concept, it's from old German and more an antiquated term. And it means the corruption of humanity through controlling masses, through controlling masses. So it's something that's been around forever, for since God knows when, right?
right.
It is about controlling people and their thoughts and their belief systems and their ideologies and dumb them down. So now, when the dumbing down begins, then people start to become the sheep. They fall asleep. Now, we happen to be asleep anyway 47% of the time. And that's just what's so, because we go into autopilot only because the brain cannot function cognitively at 100%, otherwise when cuckoo, all right, it needs to have that downtime where everything cannot be a cognitive task. Example, can remember the first time, well, maybe you don't, but maybe the first time you learned how to drive, you were holding on to the wheel and everything, paying attention. Now if we went through life that way, tying our shoes with that amount of concentration and focus and cognition that's involved, driving, cooking a meal, and all of these things that we do on habitually, I don't know what would happen to our brains. So 40%, 47% of us is on this habitual autopilot sleep. And I am going to say that more than a lot of people are on a larger percent than 47, and that don't even have the awareness that one can break free from the other, believing that there is just one personality with all those voices that make you up. Okay. And, there, we know that, okay, that the voices that you hear in your head are coming from different places, et cetera, et cetera. That's not you. It is just a personality of you, blah, blah, made up of all kinds of things. We won't go there right now because that'll take me on a tangent. However, now we're looking at the framework that we are pulling language from, that our thoughts are coming from, that our beliefs are coming from. And this all goes back hundreds, thousands, thousands, thousands of years. So, interestingly, I was doing a presentation and I took the oldest love poem that's ever been written, and it was by Sumerian gentleman over, I don't know how many thousands of years ago. And if you were to read the poem today and not know that it was written thousands and thousands of years ago, you'd think, oh, somebody kind of wrote this now about love. And they just use different, a couple of old fashioned words that we might not use. But nothing's changed. Absolutely nothing has changed. So, bottom line is, we are habitually speaking the conversations of dead people. We are using phrases and ideologies of dead people. And in the parent, in these, in the not paradigm, in the worldview of the dead people that we have inherited, we are always looking to fix things. We are looking to control things. We are always in fear and survival and make wrong and in judgment. And believe it or not, there's a whole other way, and a whole other way to use language, and a whole other way to use being. And that is way, it's way too long to go into here. Only I'm just going to give you some examples
Yes. Okay.
um, of what that would look like if a person were to say, hey, you know what? How do my thoughts and how do my words shape not only my experiences of the world? Remember, because as within, so without, not only does it shape my experiences of the world, but it also shapes my ability to access the unseen world. And um, one of the things that just came to me really quickly, and I just want to share this. That I work with teens in terms of quantum leaping, and that when a teen comes to me and they have a dream, okay, they want to become an actor, or they want to become an actress, or they basically the only ones I've worked with so far, the ones that I've come to me are from the acting community, okay? And through this work, through the work of Scientology, the work of language altering and worldview altering, I have to tell you, I'm not mentioning any names. One of my clients is working with Taylor Sheridan. Another one is in a really big Disney film production right now, and the third one is on such a big. She's involved in such a big program right now. She's in a movie that I'm not allowed to share at this moment in time. So it's not like I'm withholding information. I just don't have permission to share these things. And what is the point of all of this? These kids took a dream that any other kid would say, hey, this is so big. You know how hard it is to be in the acting world. You know what you need to do. And despite all of their fears and everything else, they used the process of the Scientology of who they were being and the psychic realm and altering their worldview of what is possible. And they were call it miraculously attracted to these parts, came to them. Of course, they have acting coaches, and of course, they have um, agents, but so do thousands and thousands of other children in the acting world with agents and coaches who never get those parts. So, what was it that all three of these children that I have just recently worked with have landed those parts? So, and that's just an example of, like, with the kids, with the other clients that I've had, making miraculous I can't even go into some of these because they sound too unbelievable, but I'm just going to give you one example. I had a client who had hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt that needed to go away. And so we did the work. We did the work that I teach all the time. I hadn't named it Scientology, but now I'm really calling it that. So we did this work with ontology, with language, with the psychic realm. And there was a glitch in the system one day after we started this work. And it was online. And all of a sudden, the money disappeared, meaning that she owed nothing. There was no record of
Wow.
it anywhere because it was all electronic. And nobody could even come back to her to know that this money had been in the system somewhere. And these stories like this go on and on. And somebody that I was working with recently said, "Why don't you write a book on miracles?" And I said, "Well, no, I'm going to write a book on Scientology rather than talk about other people's miracles. Learn how to have your own. Learn what it would
Exactly.
take to constantly live from a space of having miracles and magic. And that would entail having a new worldview." And again, the parts to that are moving and not complex, but there's more to it than just me saying to you, "Oh, change your worldview." Because if you don't even recognize what your worldview is and you're not even aware of the language that you're speaking and what you're saying, then what's it going to take for you to change your worldview? So,
Right.
all right. So it's a
Right.
process. It's a process.
Right.
All right. And
Let me
getting,
hold on a second.
mhm,
I have to tail off that. So as I raised my girls, 37 and 40 was when I had them. So 2006 and 2008. And, it's like before that everything was, all the Abraham Hicks, the Wayne Dyers, uh, everything, all
mhm,
that stuff, right? That
mhm,
was my life. I was a seeker. So I knew when I had them how important the first 7 years were. And
mhm,
what I did every day was super intentional as a parent. So you're
mhm,
planting seeds, right?
that's right.
I was planting seeds, and I'm just giving this as an example. So as a 16-year-old and a 19-year-old now, it's like you don't realize the seeds that you realize the seeds you're planting, but you don't know how they're going to bloom
That's right.
or if
That's
they're going to bloom, right?
mhm,
So now, as a mother watching teenage girls have their values beyond, like they don't do anything. They don't do, all the teenage stuff because they just have that knowing. It's not like I've ever said, go ahead, go to a party, but they're like, I'm not interested in that. That's just not where I've been that strict of a mom. I just knew I planted
mhm,
these seeds. So in our home, we can't speak negative. And it's like they've always said, cancel that, or it's like
mhm,
quickly, right? So
mhm,
now it's a
mhm,
muscle. And I'm
mhm.
just giving you,
Awesome.
this is how
Awesome.
I've raised them.
Mhm,
So, and when you were saying like a miracle story or, the girls do pageants and they've done it since they were 8. And I've watched that. That's been it's fun using these tools when you can see it in an arena, if it's sports or in their case, it was pageants. And when they got older, they both started to realize that everything is in my mind. Everything I can
mhm,
create. I
mhm,
can see myself win that. I can be that person.
mhm,
I am that person. So Paige won Miss California Teen last year, and I know we worked more on that than we worked on our walks. She knew her like she was already there. And then this year, Presley, this summer, um, she went into a pageant. We had done this work her whole life, basically. She knew at this stage, she was 16, she knew how to operate in her brain and how to become that person when we got to the event. And she was the youngest, and the other girls were Paige's age. So her birthday falls in, like, she shouldn't be in that grade or that age group. But she was like, Mom, I'm going to see myself. She had seen it. We worked in the mirror. We looked in our eyes, everything. We'd done it for, practicing for the last 6 months. And she won.
Of course
And
she won. Congratulations. Of course
right.
she
But it's
won.
like those
Yes.
miracle
Yes.
stories are
Yes.
miracles, but it's like exactly what you're saying. And that's why I
Mhm,
wanted to intervene there. But I see it happening. And it's so
mhm,
amazing to see when you're aware of what you're thinking and saying and being,
mhm.
everything in your life it's all there. It's your
Yeah,
it's your reality.
that's right. That's right. Yes. So that is what we're talking about. Okay. And now, um, as we get older, okay, as the girls will get older, for example, there are going to be other conversations that they're going to need to engage in, and that is where the Scientology work comes. So it's deeper than example, it's beyond manifesting. It is wonderful to continue to manifest and have all of these things. Yet at the same time, if we're looking to create what I call the new earth, I don't really call it the new earth, I call it a new episteme. But if we're looking to be in a world of peace, love, harmony, and beauty, and collaboration, call it utopia, that is going to require something more than everybody else, everybody being able to manifest their own dreams. Okay, does that make sense? Because we're
Yes.
working at the collective level right now. And not to negate, I think it's fabulous that your daughters have this ability and this skill and that they're using it for what they want. And then to be able to learn to take that later as they get older and transmute that into working on a higher level for influencing the lives of more people to create that new earth. So that is again beyond, not that, beyond the phenomena. Okay, so beyond the magic, beyond that miracle, what will it take to bring this to greater awareness, to use this with other people, to alter the way that the world sees itself? Okay, so I'm going to give you some real, I'm going to give you some simple, not you, but I'm going to give the listeners some simple tips, and they may already be aware of these a lot. I'm going to even assume that most of your listeners really do have the awareness of this. And as we all know, having the awareness makes no difference until you start to put it into practice.
Right.
And so one of the first things that I'm going to talk about to open up somebody's life a little bit. Um, Okay, I just want to share a story really quickly before we go there. I want to share the
Okay.
story of Helen Keller. Helen Keller, when she was 18 months old, is when she came down with scarlet fever, which then prevented her from hearing and seeing. And at that time, the way that Helen referred to her life later, when she was able to read and to speak, and what she referred to herself as, she said that until the day that Annie Sullivan until she made the connection that water and the symbols in her hand equaled language, until she made that connection, she was living in a void. There was nothing. There was no thought. And so this gets back to the age-old conversation that linguists have, thought first, language first, thinking first. And basically, without thought and without language, we would be in the void. We would just be in a void. So, language gives us access to the miraculous and to the miraculous, and it also serves as a trap to keep us very limited in what we believe, what we say, what we do, what we think. So what I'm doing now, we're again getting back into Scientology, it's really the study of how being relates to psychic, intuitive, and extrasensory perception. So, um, can I share my screen with you for a second?
Sure.
All right, I'm gonna share something, okay? Oh, can you let me share?
Yep.
All right. Okay. So you see this photo over here of a room full of books, right? And it's packed. There are books all around. Now, if I were to say, and maybe you'll play with me on this one, even if you know it, can you pretend that you don't? So now if I were to say to you, Ashley, how are you going to get all these books out of the room? How are you going to do that? And tell me what you're feeling before you start telling. What do you feel when I say that to you? What's the
That's
first
going
thing
to
that
take me
happens?
forever. Where am I, how am I going to start?
Okay. All right. And did you have a sense of overwhelm also?
Yes, very
Okay.
much.
All right. So I want you to remember that I asked the question with how. Okay.
Okay.
The cursed, beloved how. All right. So How are you going to get these books out? All right, I did this as an exercise at a presentation. So we noticed our breathing, we noticed the hesitation, we noticed our posture and our tone, and we had this feeling of overwhelm, like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? All right. So now let's take a look again over here. Same room, everything is the same. And now I'm going to invite you to ask yourself, what will it take to get these books out of the room? What will it take, Ashley? And
A lot
now
of
what
effort.
happens?
What?
What will it take?
I
What will
have
it
to
take?
figure
How do you
out
feel?
how to do it. A lot of effort. Figure out where to put them all, how to get them out.
All right. Did you feel a sense of relief when I asked
Yeah,
you, what will it take?
I did.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I did the second time I saw the picture. I felt different.
Ah, okay. So here's the thing, Ashley. The moment that we ask ourselves, we stop using how, because how takes us back into a loop of the past. How goes into, well, if I don't know how to do this, so how am I going to do this? And so there's no critical thinking, there's no creative thinking. You're in a loop. Now, the moment that we ask the brain, what would it take? What would it take? The brain jumps into action. It loves to solve puzzles. And now the brain is looking for, oh, what will it take to get those books out of the room? What can I do? What can I do? And you may go back to how am I, oh, how? Oh, but the brain is now in action. And before you know it, something is going to happen and somebody will maybe step in to help you get those books out of the room, or you will come up with something very creative. That is for sure. So, there are a number of words in language in our current worldview that keep us very, very trapped. And I'm going to give you a few more. So, one of them, of course, is should. Now, should is ubiquitous. Everybody is always using should. Oh, you should do this and you should do this. And maybe you already heard why it's good to get rid of should. Because what should does is should creates the worldview that there is something wrong. And when you're in that, it also takes authority away from you. It creates an authority. You should be doing this. Who really? It takes away your autonomy. It takes away your ability to even feel good about yourself. The moment I say to you, oh, Ashley, you should be doing this with your podcast, or you should be doing this. Well, what I'm saying to you and what you're hearing is that what you're doing is not good enough.
Right.
And that's not true necessarily. However, then we get right back into the worldview of needing to fix, needing to fix. So when you say to a kid, you should really be doing your homework. Well, then if you've ever noticed, most kids are pretty, they're either resistant and or they become compliant and complacent. And the moment that we remove the word should from our vocabulary and not replace it with supposed to, okay, but to actually spend the time in thought looking for a substitute word, the person with the should experience has a whole feeling of being alive. So couples when they're married, you ever think about like how often tension happens between a married couple when it's, well, you should have taken out the guard. You're not good enough, okay? And that's what your husband, not you, okay? That's what a husband hears. Oh, I'm not good enough. I can't make her happy. Why should I? Resentment. It goes on and on. And that one little word removed from a person's vocabulary and lifestyle will create freedom and a happiness that you can't use words for at this moment in time. Okay, that all unlimited possibilities become available by just the simple removal of should. And to catch yourself, I mean, I call it shoulding, right? I learned this from Louise Hay back in 1980 something, okay? And it was in 1986 that I made a conscious decision that I would not use the word should. And I only use it in teaching examples. And I have this like, oh, I have a visceral reaction when
Right.
I hear it. The moment somebody says, well, I should, I hear it. I won't go correcting anybody. That's not my business. I'm not a should police person. Only my body goes right into, okay, they don't know. They don't know.
Right.
Just let
Isn't
them
that
be. They
funny?
don't know. Yeah, it's not your thing, Ellie. They don't know. Only so that's, how, get rid of how. How are we going to do this? How's this going to happen? I don't know. Let's open our thinking and allow the God force, the creative force of the universe, to bring us answers or to show us ways that we hadn't thought of before while we're being so smart in our own ways of thinking that we know how to do it. Okay. All right. And then after should, another one is, I kind of like really love this one also, It's try. Okay, this is another one of these. Try. So why try? Because either you do it or you don't. Like as Yoda said, there seriously is no trying. So it is a word that is weak in its delivery. It also is weak in its intention. So I'm going to try to get this. I'm going to try to get either you go for it and you put your energy or your effort into going after that, or you don't. There seriously is no. So that is another word that is out of my vocabulary. And the other one that also is try to figure it out. They go hand in hand. Because when you're trying to figure it out, you're in a loop. You're just in a loop. You're speaking dead people's language. You're not even thinking. You're on autopilot. I'm going to try to figure it out. Really? Well, if you had the ability to figure it out, you would have done so before. So your language is trapping you into this space. And then what's the next thing? Oh, I don't know how I'm going to do it. All right. And then comes the overwhelm. Then comes this task is so beyond me. I might as well just give up or, and then when we start to, that's all part of the worldview of the impossible. You cannot do this. You must stay small. You must stay safe. You must stay contained and constricted. And then the moment you give up these vocabulary words, okay, you know what? I'm going to go do this. I'm going to look for a way to make this happen. I'm going to go get some ideas. Everything starts to open up. And so do the molecules in the universe. So do all of the little, again, the molecules, the atoms, the quantum, it all starts to change. And you're not only that, you're also vibrating at a higher frequency. And then we know in the quantum field, when we're vibrating at a higher frequency, the things that are so heavy mass to mass, which take much, much longer, now start to come into your life. Call it manifest, actualize, happen. It all comes in much quicker. And this is all done through language and who we're being, Ashley. And it's just amazing. It's absolutely amazing. So once we can start to connect the dots and we can look at, like, oh, look, I've inherited this language. Look what I've inherited. I am actually stuck in this worldview until I learn what it takes to get out of it. And then the moment that you get out of this language and this worldview, everything opens. Everything opens. And that's where you can step into a world of going to help other people create this worldview of moving away from having wars, moving away from always arguing and fighting and being locked into that way of being, of reacting to conversations that they've been trapped into since childhood. I mean, there's no end to it until we break this fish tank. That's how I
Right.
look at it.
For sure. Give examples. Like if I said to Presley, you should go do your homework now. What would you say? How do you change that?
Okay, well, you just used two words that keep you trapped. Okay.
Right.
So what would you should do your homework and what should you do, like what would you do to change that, right? So um there are many different ways depending on your relationship with Presley. Okay. Um I'd like you to do your homework now. It's that simple. Why should she do her homework? Because you're going to get resentment from her at that moment in time.
Right.
Even if she just looks at you and says, "Okay, you're not in control of what's going on in her body." So you're probably evoking some sort of emotional response in her that you may not even be aware of. Whereas a simple request like, "Hey, could you do your homework now?" Might be a good time. What do you think? You think it's time to do your homework? Um, what do you think about doing your homework? I mean, simple things like that. And then what would it take to engage her? Again, this is all conscious awareness, Ashley. This is
Hmm.
all really getting nitty gritty down into consciousness. And you can say, oh, well, it's so much work. It's so much work. That's right. It is so much work until you learn it. And then once you learn it, it becomes easy and natural.
Right.
And when you're not using it, you're trapped into the emotional responses. You're trapped into that vibration. You're trapped into that frequency and it goes around and around and around until you crack it. However, if you can give her, um, let's say, give her an idea or a concept of why it might be important for her to do her homework now, without going into guilt and threatening or any of those old models of behavior, all right, then she's going to be engaged. and she may actually come and do her homework, let's say willingly. I don't know if she does it willingly or not, only without having to ever ask that question.
Right. Yeah, it's just like the words we speak become like I'm the word police, just like you. Like anything that someone says should, it's like, oh gosh, you better stop that. Abraham Hicks used to say, cancel that. And took that from there to teach the girls about words. But when you understand we're this new world word episteme, will you explain
I
what
call it
that
an
is?
episteme. So, do you want me to explain that a little bit? You
Yes,
ask the
please.
question first, and then I'll go into the episteme.
Well, it's that's kind of where I'm at. Like what you've created this, you had this download, Scientology came to you, you realize what it's going to take to get into this new episteme and what our thoughts and words that we speak keep us in this old, dead people's,
Yeah,
programs.
yeah.
And we can't live that way anymore. We're now moving into this new episteme. And
We are.
so when I look at people in my reality, in my life, and I'm listening and things are there's like buzzwords like you say, like I'll hear the words and it makes my alarms go off, right? Just because I've created that muscle within me. But when you talk about this new earth or whatever, for people to like, do you see, I mean, here's just you wanting to teach this to people. There's got to be millions of people that get this. They,
hmm
you know, to
hmm
understand what it's going to take to
hmm
get to this new place.
hmm
So
Yeah.
explain this new.
Okay, so this is beautiful. And these are great questions. So let's talk about episteme, for example. Right now, I would say 99% of the people that I have heard speak are using the word paradigm. And a paradigm is very limited. If you look up the definition of a paradigm, you're going to see that it's limited to only one area in particular, like a paradigm in language or a paradigm in art or a paradigm in culture. It's very limited. Now, Michael Foucault, who was a philosopher, he came up with the idea of an episteme. And an episteme is when all of these, let's call them little paradigms, come together at once to create a huge cultural change in every area of life. So if he looked at it historically and he said, well, there have only been three episteme, he's no longer on the planet. There have only been three epistemes so far. There was the classic episteme, the Greeks, that was an episteme. Then there was the Renaissance. Think about the Renaissance, okay? Total episteme, right? In from art to culture to science to everything. And then there was the Industrial Revolution. So that was the third one that he was able to trace. So if we look at it like that historically and look at where we are right now, so we are in a new episteme. Our science is changing. Our language is changing. Our technology is changing. Our medical is changing. Our art is changing. It all supports the conscious evolution of where we're going. So we are in a really big episteme right now when we're smack. I don't know if we're in the beginning. I think we're in the beginning of it.
Mhm.
And who knows what historians will call this later down the line. They may call it the new earth. And with this episteme that we are in and the awareness and the people that we can begin to reach now, this is going to get more and more powerful and greater so that, you know what, maybe we will end up in that utopia, in that new earth, as opposed to ending up in the depictions and the trajectory of uh, you know, dissolution and destruction. Think about Star Wars, right? Where we've got to have a rebellion to go against the Empire. Is that really where we want to go? Do we really want to live in that trajectory? Because there are a lot of what we're doing right now. If you take a step back and you take a look at what is happening as a cultural phenomena, we're in the process of heading into the trajectory of a Star Wars scenario. I'm not talking about the wars. I'm talking about the setup before the rebellion starts. Okay. So
Mhm.
now, is that really where we want to go when there are so many other people on the planet who have conscious awareness of what's available from a different world view? And so one of the places that I just recently, while I was at the Psi Games, I met Tom Campbell. And Tom Campbell, he's a physicist, and he's also written a book called My Big Toe, and it's all about consciousness as reality. And Tom had his person, I think it was his wife, say to me, you know what, go reach out to Carolyn from the Consciousness Hub. And I was like, okay, I'm going to take a note. I'm going to reach out to Carolyn. By the time I left the event at the Psi Games, somebody had come up to me, all right, from the Consciousness Hub. And so here, and then so we connected. So, example, I'm doing an event, I'm doing a few events now with them. I'm doing conscious parenting also starting in October. The point is that here is the Consciousness Hub. And the Consciousness Hub, for anybody listening, this is a plug for their work. The Consciousness Hub is all about changing and altering and raising the consciousness of the planet, working really, really diligently and intelligently to bring about a new a new earth, if you want to call it like that, a new awareness. And it's
Hmm.
just wonderful. So there are people who are doing this, and they're not doing, there's a lot of people using just jargon, but all of that jargon, again, is for their own personal well-being. There's their own personal let's call it project or something like that, their own personal financial success, where it's not necessarily for the evolution of the planet and where we're going. And that is a very different distinction that, again, gets made between people in the spiritual community as well.
Right. You know, Paige is in college, second year, and because her consciousness, because of what I've taught her, she sees school as just a waste of time and the classes she's taking. And I've said, well, they haven't changed the educational system. It's just same thing. Well, all the dead
Mhm.
people did it, right?
That's right.
So, so I'm seeing this experience. And so I said, you have to change, you're there. So change the meaning, like know that it is that, but just go in it like, what am I going to learn today? Like change this words that come through your mind instead of making it like this is such a waste of time, like
Right,
those
right,
words.
right. Change the
But
perspective. Exactly, Ashley.
right,
And to look at maybe there's something that I can learn from this today that will work for me later in my life, or that will work for me for where I'm going. And
right.
just to
But you
touch back
see
on
the
the,
education. Yeah,
yeah,
what?
I was just going to say, the educational system, this includes our this includes our elementary and high school, and our college. It dates back to the Industrial Revolution. So you go figure, okay? Same
Right.
curriculum. A little touch of some
Yeah.
AI stuff now, okay? And other topics, but it's still within the framework, Ashley, of the old worldview, this old
Right.
consciousness.
So you explaining that, it makes me realize because both Presley too, she's like, Mom, school is such a waste of time. And
Hmm.
these kids have such a different vibration. They were born in a different place in this earth that now they're more aware. Like we didn't, I just was like a robot. That's what we did, right? Now
Hmm.
their consciousness is more expanded than ours was when we were doing what they're
Hmm.
doing.
Hmm.
We just
Hmm.
did it because that's what we were supposed to do. But now I see them waking up to going, this is not
Hmm.
serving me. Like, I'm not going to learn this. I don't need to know this for my future. It's not doing anything for me because
Hmm.
everything's shifting. I mean, even with Chat GPT and AI and all that stuff, it's like, Mom, I don't even need a tutor anymore. I just go in, put my chemistry notes in, and my tutor is there.
Right. Now, here's the thing about chat. You could even ask it. Chat will acknowledge, because I did some work with chat, right? Chat acknowledges that it is stuck in an old paradigm thing, not paradigm. It is stuck in the old worldview because that's the model that it has been imprinted in.
Yes.
So it's stuck. So if you're looking to have
Interesting.
ideas that are kind of, I mean, it's great at giving you information that is wonderful information. Absolutely. Only it's still in within the parameters of the old worldview and the fish tank because it is programmed that way. So I'm going to give you one more thing before I don't know what I before we leave today. Okay, if I may. And
You sure may.
so another thing, this if we're looking at like what are some of the ways of being in the old world view that inhibit us from being able to live in the world in the realm of the miraculous. And the first one that comes up, Ashley, is protecting. So we want to look at protecting. Where are we always protecting? We're always protecting ourselves from this imaginary fear of getting hurt. So, but think about it, it's basically all fear and survival. So, I'm afraid I'm going to get hurt. So, people protect themselves from being open, loving, kind, authentic in relationships. We do things to protect other people from getting hurt by limiting some of their experiences. Don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. There's, again, you could argue and say, well, isn't it good to protect? In some ways, it is, because that is just what, so you do want to protect your baby, okay, your child. However, in language, there are different ways of protecting, so that by protecting, we release the feeling of not being good enough, the fear that we're not enough, and that we can step into a new world by releasing this, where I am able to access information and that I am safe. So if we can give up, oh, I need protection, in a different world, not the one that we're currently in, then in a world where we were all without this belief that we need protection, we would all know that we're safe at any given time. We would be safe.
Right.
And we would have access to knowing, okay, I am safe. I am divinely guided. So if you think about this, this is a whole different way of looking at the world. And this way is almost unimaginable to 90% of the people, because they're
Right.
still trapped in this other way of seeing it, and they're going to argue for it. And again, the moment that we start arguing, we're looking to control. And then that just keeps us tighter and tighter and tighter, because when we control, we don't allow ourselves to step into new experiences. We don't allow ourselves to trust and to see the unseen, because we're looking to control a situation. So, I mean, these just all piggyback on each other.
Yeah.
And
Oh, I love that.
yeah, so it's just, it's uh it's an interesting way of being conscious for me, and the way that I'm teaching my clients and the people that I'm working with. And will it take something? Yeah, absolutely. It took God knows how many years for people to believe that we could see without our eyes. Okay. And so is it going to take years? Perhaps, maybe not. We'll never know. I don't know. There's a quote saying, we go to plant trees under whose shade we may never sit, but yet we
Hmm.
still go plant those trees.
Right. I love that. So true. Oh, Ellie, it's been so fun. I love your passion for what you do, and you feel it. I see it. And I resonate with everything that it's like I feel like we had to have been in past lives together doing something with children, or like,
Yeah.
there's something, definitely a connection together for so long. And even I look back at how we've connected, back with the Seattle friends, like I think I was thinking, gosh, it had to have been like 227, like way before the podcast. I mean, that
27,
I just knew you
2016.
before that.
Yeah, 2016.
2016?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, interesting.
Hmm.
But everything you say is like a full body yes
Hmm.
and that's what I love. And I love the connections that we've made, and it's the connections that are a reflection of who
Hmm.
I am with you. Like
Hmm.
when you send me someone, I know it's a full body yes. Like that when you just have that feeling with someone,
Yeah. Hmm.
that's who you are to me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, tell
Ashley,
everybody how to.
go spread the light.
You
Go
what?
spread the
Yeah.
light. Go spread the light, Ashley. All right.
Yes.
Go
Yes.
make
Tell every.
magic. And
Yes.
yeah, and your audience and all of the people that come to listen, because that's who you are. You're a magical being, spreading light and really presenting different ways to look at the world. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you for that. And explain your website, your court, like what you're up to right now. Any last
Okay.
little plugs that you can
Up, last little
share?
plug. Sure, sure. ellymolina.com. That's the starting point. And then for courses that I'll be doing, tap into the Consciousness Hub. And that's just what it's called, the consciousnesshub.com. They've got wonderful courses, they've got programs for free. I'm going to be doing a conscious parenting series, and I'm also doing language as the gateway to the Psi realm, and that will be on October 4th. And that's through the Consciousness Hub. That's going to be a little bit of what we did here and more. So, yeah. And where else am I? Oh, I'm on YouTube. Yeah. Hmm. So, and then of course I forget these things. And then, so YouTube, it's Elly Molina, and
Are you still
Instagram,
doing your podcast?
I do, on occasion when
Okay.
I find a guest that I really want to share with the world. So I've got two people lined up right now coming, and we'll see. Mhm.
Yeah. Ask Ellie, right?
No, I changed it. I changed it. Now it's just Elly
Oh,
Molina. I just changed it. It
oh,
was easier to find.
okay.
Elly Molina, but
Okay.
that's yeah. And so that's the YouTube channel, and the podcast goes right to the YouTube channel also. So
Okay. Perfect.
yeah,
Well, thank you.
awesome.
Thank you for
Thank
our
you.
three. It's so cool to really kind of where I'm at with the conversation versus even though I didn't go listen to the first two, but I could just imagine where we were then. Like it's just so cool to be here, and it's just a confirmation to knowing
Mhm.
that when you do the work and you become so involved into your growth and where we are in this world, and that's your focus and your intention, then
Mhm.
it
Yeah,
that's what flourishes, and
yeah,
you can't help but grow and
that's right.
find these new things that download while you're swimming laps,
Yeah, that's right.
right?
Yeah, or breaking a foot, whatever
Oh,
it
geez.
is.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you.